Welcome to Cyber and Practice, episode 25. I'm Lewis Knox. Today, we're doing a hands-on demonstration focused on continuous risk monitoring and reassessment. We'll explore how to validate security improvements through ongoing evaluation, ensuring our controls actually work over time. So what is continuous risk monitoring? It's the process of evaluating security controls over time to keep risk within acceptable organization thresholds. We do this through continuously monitoring, control validation, post-treatment reassessment, and measuring risk reduction. This directly fuels our governance framework for continuous improvement. Building on that concept, why do reassessment matter? Without it, you cannot confirm if controls are effectively reducing risk or if new threats have emerged. Operationally, it validates your treatment, measures risk reduction with hard matrix, and identifies new risks and drives continuous program enhancement. Let's look at the technical framework and dashboard panels we'll use to track this. We start with the initial assessment in our risk registry, apply a risk treatment, and perform validation testing. We then measure residual risk, maintain continuous monitoring, and use governance reporting to share trends with leadership. Now let's outline our objectives for today's hands-on demonstration. We will validate our implemented controls to confirm past risks are mitigated. Then we'll follow up with an MAT scan, measure our risk reduction, update our risk register documentation, and demonstrate how continuous monitoring sustains this posture over time. Here's our lab setup. Using Kali Linux, we'll run MAP with our risk register and treatment plan to test the Windows systems, confirming previously addressed risks and documenting final outcomes. At this point, I've completed the risk identification, qualitative risk assessment, quantitative risk analysis, and risk treatment planning phase of the risk management lifecycle. For this demonstration, I will review the existing register, implemented selected mitigation actions, perform validation testing, reassess the identified risk, and update the risk management documentation. This worksheet contains the risk register developed during the previous demonstration. The register documents identified risks, assigned owners, treatment strategies, and current status. Based on previous assessment, RDP exposure was identified as the highest priority risk and assigned a mitigation strategy. SMB exposure was also assigned a mitigation strategy due to potential impact on organizational data. The remaining risks were accepted and assigned a monitoring status because they presented lower overall risk levels. The purpose of continuous monitoring is to determine whether implemented controls successfully reduce risk and whether risk levels should be reassessed. I'll begin by implementing the mitigations for RDP exposure. The next identified risk involves SMB file sharing services. File sharing services increase the risk of unauthorized access to organizational data. To reduce this exposure, I'm disabling file and printer sharing. File sharing functionality has now been restricted, reducing the potential for unauthorized access and shared resources. After implementing the selected controls, I will perform a follow-up service discovery scan to determine whether the changes affected the exposed services. The follow-up scan shows that the previous identified servers are no longer exposed, indicating that mitigation actions were successfully implemented. Now that the mitigation actions have been implemented and validated, I'll review the risk register. The risk register has been updated to reflect the results of the reassessment process. During the original assessment, RDP exposure was classified as high risk and assigned a mitigation strategy. Following the implementation of additional controls, the validation testing and risk level has been reduced and the status has been updated to mitigated. SMB exposure was originally classified as a medium risk. After restricting file sharing functionality and validating changes, the risk level has been reduced and the status has been updated to mitigated. Net BIOS exposure has improved as a result of the changes made to file sharing services and will continue to be monitored. RPC exposure and HTTP API exposure have not changed significantly and remain under ongoing monitoring. Updating the risk register is an important part of continuous risk management because it ensures risk information remains accurate and reflects the current state of the environment. The updated register now reflects the implemented controls, reassessed risk levels, and the current treatment status for each identified risk. Based on the results of the monitoring and reassessment process, the implemented controls successfully reduced the organization's overall risk exposure. RDP exposure and SMV exposure were identified as the highest priority risk during the previous assessment and have now been addressed through mitigation efforts and validating testing. The remaining risks continue to be monitored as part of the ongoing risk management process. This demonstrates how organizations continuously monitor, reassess, and update risks to ensure security controls remain effective over time. This concludes the risk management lifecycle by demonstrating risk identification, assessment, analysis, treatment, validation, monitor, and reassessment within a controlled lab environment. Having finished the demo, let's connect it to the continuous risk management lifecycle. This cycle consists of 5 repeating stages: identify a risk, analyze its impact, treat it with a control, monitor its effectiveness, and report the posture to leadership. Then repeat the cycle. To recap episode 25, remember these key takeaways. Risk management is continuous, not an annual event. Validation confirms your controls actually work, while reassessment provides measurable improvements. Finally, robust governance documentation proves due diligence and ultimately strengthens your overall security posture.
Thank you for watching Cyber in Practice. If you enjoyed this demonstration, stay tuned for future Cyber in Practice episodes.